All right. Hey, everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear me. My name's Kai. I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. We're doing some Cartoon Animator 4 stuff today. We're going to have a three-part webinar series that's going to continue from today on through next week. And I believe the last one is Friday, 2 weeks from now. So we're going to have three separate webinars. It's all kind of part of the same script. We're just going to deal with different kind of areas. I'm going to try and focus on different areas in each webinar. We're going to be doing an hour each, so we kind of have a bit of limited time to discuss a lot of different topics. And yeah, that's basically what we're going to be doing right now. Day one here is setting the scene. Before I get through the summary of today's webinar, though, I'll just give you a little few tips here on Zoom. We are broadcasting this live on YouTube as well. So if you want to watch on YouTube, feel free to go onto YouTube and live stream it from our Reallusion YouTube channel. And yeah, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, we have a Q&A session at the end, about the last 10 minutes or so, last 10, 15 minutes or so. We're going to have questions from all the participants, all the audience of this webinar. So feel free to put your questions in that Q&A section there. Do not put it in the chat window. I won't be checking the chat window. The only reason I'll be using the chat window is possibly to share links with all of you. But any questions you have throughout the webinar, you can put them at the Q&A section in the Zoom webinar panel, and I'll get to those at the very end. Okay, and I think that about covers it. We're going to be also sending out a survey for you guys as well. So if you fill out that survey, you'll get a 10% discount coupon from the content store, so make sure you do that. We're always looking for suggestions for topics on upcoming webinars. We really encourage your feedback on that. Allows us to kind of focus a bit more on what the majority of our users are using Cartoon Animator for and the questions and problems they're having. And hopefully we can solve those throughout these interactive webinars. And yeah, that's about it. So I think that about covers all the webinar stuff, all the technicalities. I also wanted to mention as well here that we have an Animation at Work Cartoon Animator contest coming up. We have this annually. We've had it for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something like that. Really cool prizes to be won. You can check over here the prizes. Just a little bit of a teaser for you guys here. We're going to have a few cool prizes that we'll announce up in the upcoming area here, upcoming time limit. Also want to just put this link in the chat window for you guys so you can check it out on your own time there. Highly recommend checking this out. It goes from now until October 31st, so you have until Halloween to throw that in there. Rather to throw your hat in the ring, I guess you can say. I'm just kind of recovering from a cold here. My brain's not all there right now. Okay, I'm going to send this to all you guys here, the link, okay, so you can check that out. You know, just throw your hat in the ring, like I mentioned. Put some animations together. You never know. The longer you spend in it, the more practice you get either way. So I highly recommend checking out the Animation at Work contest. In addition, before we get started, I wanted to mention here we have a special in the content store. We have this Football Moves, Football Moves Human Emotions Pack. You can purchase for $19 from $39 just for this week only. So I'd recommend checking that out. 20 bucks, you know, you got a lot of cool soccer motions in there. You can go through it on your own time. I'll just go ahead and copy that into the chat window there as well. And there we go. Okay, apologies if my nose sounds super stuffed, because it is. And okay, I think that's about it for the preface here for our webinar. What I'm going to talk about now is just what we're going to be focusing on in the next few days here. So right now we're doing section 1, day 1 here, setting the scene. So today's webinar, we're going to focus on a lot of the simple stuff. I'm going to assume that you don't really have much of a knowledge of Cartoon Animator, and if you do, apologies. You know, we'll get to like a bit more advanced stuff later on. If you have any questions, you can just ask those questions at the end of the webinar, the Q&A section there. But we're going to just kind of assume you guys have limited knowledge, or at least basic knowledge of Cartoon Animator. The level is set for beginner here. Okay, so we'll just kind of run right into it. Day 1, we're going to be setting up a scene. I'm going to be introducing you to the UI, you know, where you can find stuff, what it's used for. We're going to do some quick and simple prop animation, adding music and sound effects, really simple stuff. Background creation, we're just going to be basically importing in a background. I'll show you how you can create your own background if you want. There's also the option to create custom props, and I'll show you how to do that later on as well. In day 2, we're going to focus on the character creation and customization part. Okay, so this is going to be using the Photoshop pipeline. We're going to be doing a few things here to create our characters and customize 360 heads, which is a new feature with Cartoon Animator 4. Okay, so you may have watched a lot of the tutorials that I've been putting out on Cartoon Animator 4 with the 360 heads and all that fun stuff and the character customization. I'll be kind of outlining a lot of that stuff in day 2. Day 2, we're probably going to get a bit more into the animation as well. The character customization is not going to take a whole lot of time. So day 2 and day 3 are kind of going to run into each other. And again, I may be doing some animation, just temporary animation in day 1, just to kind of accommodate what the topics we're focusing on. And day 3, we're going to be talking about facial motion capture, character animation rendering. We're going to be focusing on all of the animation stuff, and finally the scene rendering and camera movement, which is very important. Okay, so I think that about sums it up. I don't want to spend any more time here. I've just kind of summarized everything. Again, any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A section, and I'll get to those at the end of the demo. Okay, but first of all, what I want to do is kind of just give you an overview of what we're going to be working through in the next few days. We have this dialogue here. I haven't put it in official script form, but this is just the dialogue that I have. It's always good to start off with the dialogue when you're creating a project, even if it's simple like this. And just so you're aware, we will be sending out all the project files for this webinar. So any of the project files that I'm using, we'll send them out to you guys. You can deconstruct them by yourselves and kind of see behind the scenes what's going on. We'll send those project files out for you, as well as the videos and anything that you need. Okay. We'll go through this this is going to be mostly focused on day 3, I think, the animation stuff. So I just want to give you a preview here. We'll close that down for now. And I will just kind of play the video for you, the final video that we're going to have at the end of 3 days. This is kind of a teaser, and then we'll get right into constructing our project to start off with here. Okay. So let's go ahead and just run this tape first.
Jim, you really should take a break from animating. You've been at it for hours.
Hey, Bob. Thanks. Will do.
Well, hello there, Jim.
Hey, After Effects. That's funny. I don't remember buying a dancing monitor. Man, what was in that coffee?
Let go of her, you snake.
Ooh, help me, Jim.
You'll never take me alive, Jim.
We'll see about that.
Oh, Jim, you saved me. Jim.
All right, so apologies for the super cheesy script. This is just something I kind of whipped up to kind of just demonstrate a bunch of the topics that we're going to be covering here. A lot of stuff focused on animations as well. I also want to mention here that the character I'm using is, let's see here, I need to go to the content store. This is a Gary Pie character. And some of these characters are from Animation Power Tools Volume 2, which I'll also load up here. If you want to search for Cartoon Animator content, just go to your content store here, reallusion.com/content store. I'll post this in the chat window as well. I'm pretty sure most of you have been here. Okay, there we go. And let's go to, we just go to search here, I guess is the easiest way. I'm going to select Cartoon Animator here, and I'm going to search for Gary Pie, or I should have searched for Spy probably, but Gary Pie is one of our most prolific developers. And if you have skills, animating or creating stuff, I highly encourage you to submit your stuff to the marketplace or content store. You can sell it to other users, whether you do paint backgrounds or something like that. It's always good stuff. This Spy character here. If you want to get a hold of this guy, Gary Pie has released some amazing characters for Cartoon Animator 4. Again, all 360 heads. They can rotate their heads. Range of hand and eye movement and all this stuff, hand and eye sprites. I'll put this in the chat window as well for you guys. You can check it out on your own time. And I recommend checking out all of his other Bendy's characters as well. Really fun stuff, everything from like Indiana Jones type characters to, as you can see here, James Bond type characters and astronauts and so on and so forth. Okay, so I highly recommend checking out his stuff. You can use it for a lot of projects. Really fun to use and well made. I'll search for one more here, since we're going to be using some office material to get our office project first. I'm going to show you the project here. Let's load that up in the background while we're waiting here. Part 1. And let's go to find. So I'm just going to search for office. Okay, let's close down Spy Guys for now. In the content store, I'll again just search for office in Cartoon Animator. There's a whole bunch of office stuff, and you'd be surprised. A lot of our users, we have a lot of users who do corporate training videos, and they use Cartoon Animator, and they just, here's all your office stuff, and they just point them to the content store, and you can buy all sorts of office stuff from various developers. There's Gary Pye as well there, Maxime, Frank's Pencil, some really great developers. Sir, we're going to be using this modern city office from Serge Pilipenkos. Okay, sorry if I just butchered that name, Serge. But this is the one that we're going to be using in the background here, and I'll post this in the chat window as well. Where are you? Okay, there you go. Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. Someone mentioned there's no audio, but should be just fine. My output mic is working fine. So, okay, so we're going to be using this office scene like I mentioned here. Okay, so if you want to buy something, all you really have to do is just go over here to buy, obviously. I mean, not too tricky. Add to cart, and go to your shopping cart, and then check out, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to, worry too much about that. What you will come up with is an install file. And if you really want to know about that, it's pretty straightforward. Just ask me in the Q&A section. I'm not going to show you the whole process of installing it. But at the very end, when you finish installing it, it'll have a folder, it'll have a window that pops up showing you where it was installed. Sometimes people, they download stuff, but they don't know. They're like, hey, where was it installed? I can't find all my props and stuff. Okay, so for this one, I'll show you exactly where they are. Here's our scene, by the way. Right now I'm in record mode. You can see on the top right, there's a record right here. The way I can get out of record mode is by clicking on this camera on the top, okay? So when you deselect the record mode, you'll be able to freely move your camera and it won't record any movements, okay? So I can hold Alt and I can left click and drag to pan my scene like this, okay? Alt and left click and drag. That's normally the way I pan my scene. You can hold Alt and both mouse buttons, and that'll allow you to zoom in and out, okay? And that's just, the way that I always do it myself. It's just super easy to just, do that. Now, I'm going to show you where these props are first. So say I've downloaded that Office pack. Over here in the Content Manager is where all your content will be, okay? If you can't see your Content Manager, go over here to Windows and go to Content Manager, okay? You can also press the F4 hotkey, and that'll bring up your Content Manager. And we also have a Scene Manager, okay? Generally, with the default setup, your Content Manager is right down here, and your Scene Manager is right here. So in your Scene Manager, you'll see things that are part of your scene, okay? So I'm going to show you the difference between scenes and props in just a moment here. But you can see you can click things right here. You can click the table, and you'll see that red selection box around the table. You can click on the monitor back right here, and that'll select the monitor. And click on angel wings that are invisible right now. I'll show you about that a little bit later. And this radial here is another transition that we'll talk about a little bit later as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is we're going to just go start from scratch, okay? If I play this back, you'll see what it looks like.
Jim, you really should take a break from animating. You've been at it for hours.
Hey, Bob. Camera, thanks. It'll just play from the same position. Will do. Okay. Now, a very important thing to note is that when we're in record mode, anything that's outside of this line here, where my mouse is going along here, anything that's outside of this line will be invisible, okay? Or will not show up on your scene. It won't be invisible, but it won't show up on your final render. Okay, so you see this box right here. Anything outside of that box will not show up in your final render, okay? Very important to know. So if you're setting up, generally you want to put like this character over here on the left. You can see there's After Effects and this suave looking dude waiting in the wing to enter the scene. Okay, and the reason for After Effects is this is just a story of an animator going insane, basically. There's not much context there, but anyways, okay, so we'll go ahead and start from a brand new project. Okay, I just wanted to kind of deconstruct that for you. And what I'm going to do is go to the Content Manager where I can find my content. Okay, we're going to talk about all these different tabs in the content manager really quick. Okay, so your actor is where you find all your actors. We'll bring one in just a moment here. The project is where you find default projects, and you can save custom projects. If you go up to custom right here, okay, I have one custom project saved, and your template projects will be projects that you can bring in yourself, okay, that you can test out yourself. These are demo projects here that come embedded in Cartoon Animator 4. Okay, actors where you can find your actors, animations where you find your animations. Now scenes are where you find scenes that have already been put together. So thankfully, people like Surge have put together a scene. So I have general background scenes. You can just double click these. These could be used for, like, you know, stand-up comedy or something. Okay, so it's just a general background here with a little kind of gradient right here. You can have your character stand on that and do some stand-up. And, you know, have a let's go to bring an actor here in just as an example. Let's go to G3 360. These are the brand new characters. So let's say Philip here. He looks like a disgruntled office worker. Say he wants to do some stand-up comedy. Well, we bring him in here, and there he is. Okay, we can resize him, or we can resize the background. Doesn't really matter. Let's bring him down to like this size here, and there we go. You can bring in, there's other characters or other projects like this one here, this G3 360 Campus Hero. Okay, a bunch of different characters from that as well. And those can be found, this is the pack that I wanted to bring up to you here. Cartoon Animator 4 Power Tools Volume 2, okay. Pretty cool stuff. You got some really cool looking school-like characters and some moves and everything like that. I'll throw that in the chat window really quickly for you as well. Zoop. Okay, there you go. And let's close this down. I don't think we need Google running in the background or Chrome running in the background right now. Okay, so there's our actor, right? And then we can go to animation. And animation, we have motions for the face. Okay, these are just only facial motions. Okay, there's perform motions. Now, perform motions include body, face, and voice. Okay, so if I went to G3 Human Motions, the social pack that I just showed you earlier, say I went to celebration, okay, or emotion, I can just go to like, let's find a male character here. Carefree. Oh, I don't know. This guy looks, maybe he's like sick or something. Okay, just double click on that. There you go. All right. So we have our character just like performing with facial and body animation and all that fun stuff. Okay, there's voice. There's also the voiced ones in the bonus one as well. So I want to celebrate. You can know there's a cheeky chappy one here. Now these are used for, it's supposed to be different characters. There's supposed to be audio on that. I'm not sure where the audio went. And there's like, you know, different ones here. But those are just animations, okay? And there's animations for the body only called under motion here. Okay, so I don't want to get too much into detail on this stuff. Again, we're going to cover this in day 3. So just want to show you the basic ones. These are templates that you can apply. So just motion clips that you can apply to your character. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. Okay, so we'll just twirl that up for now. And you can see maybe it looks like he's doing stand-up comedy since he's laughing. Okay, and from animation, we have scene. Okay, and I mentioned the scenes before. Sound effects or special effects here. There's different sounds. Okay, so maybe he did a really good job with his comedy routine. We have a cheer and clap sound, okay? Really easy to make your own really quick stand-up routine if you wanted to. I mean, it really takes less than 5 minutes if you already have a script ready to do a stand-up for your character. And you can do like stuff like there's an object like surprise bubbles, all kinds of stuff that's included with this. And under video, you know, not a whole lot of stuff under video. We don't need to worry about that. But that's about it. And then props. So props is where you find the majority of your stuff under props here, okay? So there's tons and tons of stuff here, like under stage. We can bring in a microphone. Okay, just left click and drag it. You can bring it in like this. Now, notice here that I'm at frame 554, okay? And what I'm going to do, just to simplify things, is I'm going to just right-click on my character. I'm going to select Remove Animation, Remove Object Animation. I'm going to click on my microphone, maybe stretch it out a bit since it's a little short for him. And right-click on that, and also Remove Object Animation. And then we'll go back to frame 1, okay? And here's our character with the microphone. in front of him. You can put a podium, all sorts of stuff here. Okay, there's different props you can throw in there. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this stuff. This is just how you click and drag and animate props in. And elastic motions are motions that we're not going to worry too much about elastic motions. If you have questions about it, feel free to ask me, but I'm not going to focus too much on elastic motions. They're mainly used for prop animation. We'll talk about that. We can talk about that at any time if you want. Okay, well, let's go ahead and create our project here. I'm going to show you the difference between a scene and a prop. So if we go to scene, like I mentioned, Surge here has kindly put together the scene already under the Modern City pack that I purchased. In the content store, there's City Street and there's Office. So City Street, I'll just bring that in really quick. You can double click it and that'll bring in the scene with all the various props here. Okay, so you can see if we zoom out, here it is right here. Okay, just a very simple and easy looking scene. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw in the Office scene really quick here. And we're going to take a look at how you can move objects around and modify them and stuff as well. Okay, so the Office seems a little bit smaller there. Let's zoom in on that. And there we go. Now you're probably wondering, like, how do you, move stuff around your scene? Really easy, actually. Let's take a look at this chair as an example. Okay, this big red old chair. If I left click on the chair, we can resize it by hovering over the top left or top right or corner of the selection box and left clicking and dragging. Okay, we can make it larger or smaller like that. We can also rotate the chair by going just directly outside the selection box in the corner. And you can see the cursor changes to a rotation cursor. And left click and drag, and we can rotate it like that. Okay. If you want to bring it back and forth on the Z axis, on the 3D axis, there's a little gizmo on the bottom here where you can click and drag that, and you can move it back and forth in our scene. Okay, just like that. Now you also have your values up here as well. So if I wanted to rotate like that, you can see my rotation value up here is at 24, and I can change it to like, blah, 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 blah. If I'm like, say, hey, I want to get it back to 0, just press 0 and enter, and there you go. Okay. And if you want to resize one side separate from the other, you can do this. You can see the height changes and the width doesn't change. If I want to set them all back to normal, I can go 100, enter, 100, enter. Okay, and these are just the values that are easy to punch in up here. Now, if you're very particular about moving your object, you want to move it frame like pixel by pixel on your screen, you can go like this. You can bring it like forward on the Z-axis. You can see when I bring it forward to 0, it'll be in front of all the desk and everything like that. If I go back, go one by one, inch by inch, and bring it behind the concrete wall there, okay? And this is just the Z-axis. I can also use my keys right here, like my up and down key right here once it's selected. If I select the object and it's not highlighted up here, I can press the keys here to move it around. Also, I want to mention here, you can use these values here as well. Okay, so that's about movement and scale and everything. I think that's all you need to know. Really easy stuff. Apologies if you already know that, but it's important for a lot of us here. So what I'm going to do now is bring in a character. We're going to take a look at the three-dimensional look of our scene, how we can move objects in 3D. So I'm going to go just add a custom character. And this character, we're going to learn how to customize him. It's really easy in part 2 of this webinar series. So I'm going to left click and drag and bring in Jim Plainclothes, okay? So we have 2 different versions of Jim. We have Jim Suave, who's the spy you saw in scene 2, and Jim Plainclothes, who's the spy, the wannabe spy we're bringing in right now, okay? Once he pops in, we're going to go ahead and throw him into a particular area on our scene. There you go. All right, if you want to make him a little bit smaller, you can, just like that. Scale him down, and we're good to go. There we go. Okay, so you can see we want to have Jim behind the desk. Now, the easiest way to do that is just to go up here to 3D view. Okay, so left click on 3D view, and then you'll see we can hold Alt and left click our mouse, and we can move around like this, panning again. But now if we hold Alt and we right click, we can rotate here from side to side, okay, on our scene. You can see we can see objects in a 3D view. Now they're all pretty close together, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in really quick, and I'm going to select Jim. I'm going to bring him back on the Z-axis by using that blue arrow gizmo there, okay? Just like maybe to about there. Actually, let's bring Jim like at the front first. And it seems like what we're gonna have to do is bring the desk and everything else forward first, okay? So here's a quick little tip. If you want to select multiple objects, you can just hold the control key, okay? Just like your files in Windows Explorer, okay? So I'm going to left click on from left to right here. I'm going to left click on my lamp right there, left click on the hold control, and left click on the yellow seat. Hold control, left click on the laptop there, and these set of books here, those set of books there, and you can see our red selection box gets larger, and finally on the table, okay? And then what I can do, I can click and drag everything and move it forward separately, just like this. So now it's in front of Jim. Now they're all moving together in front of Jim, okay? And there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. Now, that's pretty simple stuff. Not really much complicated in that. You can get out of 3D view by deselecting 3D view here. And now we have Jim. Oh, we forgot the coffee cup. There you go. Let's bring that forward manually, just like that. Okay. All right. So there's Jim in front of everything here. Now, one thing I want to quickly do is have Jim sit down. Now, this is, I guess, technically animation, but I just want to show you how easy it is to make a character sit down. Really easy stuff. What I'm going to do here is go over here to the motion key editor, 2D motion key editor. And a couple things. You need to make sure that these two lock boxes are on. These are called end effectors. He's going to make sure that your character's feet are planted. If I select my character's hip and I move it around like this, those feet will not move. They will stay on the ground if we bend over like this. All right. Pretty simple stuff. Let's just have him sit down like that. Great. Okay. And then we can select his arms and move his arms over like this. So it looks like he's actually using a laptop. Okay. We'll talk about animation stuff a little bit later on as well. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the animation stuff right now. But we have Jim kind of sitting in a position like that. Let's bring it down a little bit. Let's make that chair a little smaller since it looks a little bit weird. Okay, here we go. And then we can take this chair behind him and move it down like that. All right, so there's Jim. There's our initial position. You know, Jim using the keyboard and everything like that. Now, if you want, there's also motions that you can just double click on and apply to your character really easily as well. Okay. Now, one of these motions is in the animation tab here. If we go to perform under Fantasy Stanley, there's an office life folder. And this has a whole bunch of different office motions here. You can find this in the content store as well. Let's just find it really quickly here. Content store, whoops. There we go. And search. I'll just throw this link in there for you guys in case you want to check it out. Fantasy Stanley should bring it up. Wait, not Fantasy Stanley. Yes, Fantasy Stanley in one word, maybe. Where are we here? Okay, search. This should bring it up. There we go, Office Life right here. We'll just throw that link in there for you. Okay, there you go. And yeah, so this is all basically if you just guys want to use like shortcuts, if you're not really a detailed animator yet, go ahead and check out this pack. And there's a motion in here called Office Typing. Okay, right here, you can just double click it and you can have your character type like this as well. Okay, so this includes facial and body animation, and you'd have to kind of just reposition this slightly at frame 1, just like this. Okay, and you'd have to probably bring his feet down. But let's go ahead and just keep this the way it is right now, and maybe move the chair forward a bit like there. Okay, and then you'd have an animation like this. Now I'll show you how to manually animate if you want in day 3, but that's it for now. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in a couple different props. And if you recall in scene 1, at the very end of scene 1, we had a prop dancing. I'm going to show you how to animate, to bring in your own props and how to animate them really quickly. Okay, so if we go over here to our props down here, there is a computer screen. So I've downloaded a bunch of different packs here again. So there's like conference room, commercial symbols. I'm not going to keep on going back into the content manager because you can probably find this stuff on your own time. But I just wanted to go ahead and find there's an office one here. Business objects. So a number of different business objects you can throw in there. A conference room. There's like chairs and all that stuff. Office is the one that I want here. And there is a computer that's facing the other direction here and monitor back. Okay, so we're going to just left click and drag and bring that in. Now this is embedded in Cartoon Animator 4, so everyone should have this this monitor here. Okay, you can see it's behind everything, so we need to bring it forward on the z-axis, just like this. Okay, and now you maybe think it's this monitor is a little too big, so we can resize it. But one thing you'll notice is at the bottom, and this is very important, at the bottom, the monitor is kind of popping off the table. Now, you'll come across situations like this a lot in Cartoon Animator 4 where you know, the dimensions or the angle of your prop doesn't really match the table or whatever that it's on. Okay, I'm going to show you an example of this in just a moment here. I'm going to show you a quick example right now, easy example, to kind of stretch, because if we stretch this monitor like this, it's going to look a bit weird, like it's just kind of too stretched out. Or if we compact it like this, it's going to look like it's too compact. All right, it looks a little bit weird. Okay, now luckily there is a way to have this all taken care of. Let's remove object animation here, just bring it down to normal size. Luckily there is a way to condense the bottom part while retaining the area size of the top part here of the monitor. To do that, we're going to go over here to Prop Key Editor. Okay, you can also use the K hotkey. Now the Prop Key Editor is very useful. There's two options here. One is for transform. Transform is just to change the position and scale of your prop. Okay, not very. You can do that in regular scene mode. But there's deform now. We have the ability to deform the mesh. Now you can do this. You're probably familiar with Photoshop, like warping or you know, changing the mesh or the that way. What I can do here, if I want to make this bottom part smaller, is I can just click on these points and I can bring them down like this. Okay. So these middle points, I'll just bring them down like this. And there we go. So what's happening now is you can see the bottom part of our monitor is condensing a little bit. And the top part might stretch out a little bit. So we can kind of just bring that back up. And just use these points to kind of adjust the mesh to the, you know, dimensions that you want. Okay, we can bring that up a little bit here as well at the bottom. And there you go. And all right, so that looks a lot better. So you see we've condensed the bottom part here while retaining the size of the top part relatively. Okay, we can use transform and just bring it back down a little bit right there. And now it fits perfectly on our table. Okay, so that's a quick example of how you can use the deform tool to adjust different props. Very useful tip there. Okay, now if you want to animate that, you can quickly animate that using the same process. Okay, so you know the animation back and forth, a little bouncing that I showed you that was on the project earlier. I'll show you how to do that, and I'll show you how to transfer that animation to other props as well. So you can really quickly and easily transfer it to other props by adding to your action menu, which is the next learning point here. Okay, so if I want to animate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press F3 and go into the timeline. You can also go down here on the bottom right to show timeline. Okay, now one thing I highly recommend when you're using the timeline, this is what you use for animation. Okay, I highly recommend having this second option from the left selected. This is called object related track. So if I select that, what's going to happen is whatever I click on my scene, like I click this dude, his tracks will pop up. Okay, if I select this lamp over here, the lamp will pop up. If I select this seat here, the seat will pop up. Okay, so this is basically everything that we want. If we want to use those tracks, we just select that object and all the relevant tracks will pop up. Okay, so highly recommend having that. So what I'm going to do with the monitor here is right now I'm going to open the motion track. Okay, so everything that's found in the prop key editor, all the animation keyframes found in the prop key editor, you'll find in your motion tracks. Okay, it's like this. Okay, and it'll show motion back. Monitor back is the name of the monitor, by the way. You'll see T for transform, S for sprite, D for deform, and O for opacity. Okay, that's what those all stand for. So what I'm going to do is just to make a simple animation here, we're going to go to frame 5, and I'm going to use deform. And we're going to bring it down like this on one side, like that. And you can see it'll add a keyframe in our deform track, okay? The D for deform, right? So what we have now is we have this from frame 0 to frame 5. We have the monitor going down like this, and then we're going to have it go to frame 10, and I'm just going to bring it up like that, okay? I'm just stretch it out like this, and I'm not going to be too worried about, you know, any sort of issues here. We'll just go ahead and use like that, okay? So we'll bring it like that, and then we'll bring it back down like this at frame 15. I'm going to bring it back down to like sort of a neutral position here. It's kind of a neutral squash position, like this. Okay, so we have it bring like that, and then from here, it'll be kind of stretched out on the other side at frame 20. Okay, and again, just use those little left click on those little angle points there and bring them up to your desired height. Okay, like that. And then frame 25, we'll have it stretched all the way out. Okay, and you can see it's adding little keyframes there in the deform track. So now we have like this. By the way, if you left click and drag in this little top area here, very important to know, you can left click and drag to just see your animations, preview them really quickly. And I think that's really the best way to kind of preview what you're doing there. And then I'm going to bring it back to frame 30 here, and we're just going to use a neutral position here again as well. So if I want to copy and paste the keyframes from this neutral position, all I have to do is right click on the keyframe and copy it and go to frame 30 and paste it. You can also use Control-C, Control-V, obviously, okay? Just like that. Okay, so what we have now is we have a loop. So it starts like this and goes like this from here to here, okay? And then it'll go back up to here. So what I'm going to do, if I want to save this motion for further use, what I can do is I can just go into my collect clip track here, okay? Let's open a collect clip track. And what I want to do is take the 30 frames here, and I want to left click and drag in my collect clip track, just like this, okay? And then I'm going to right click in the collect clip track. Now there's a few things you can do here. You can export this as a separate motion if you want, which is what we're going to do first, okay? We're going to call this, I don't know, let's just save it to our desktop and we'll call it bounce, okay? Bounce. Save that. Okay, so now we have it saved as a CT motion, as a CT prop motion on our desktop, okay? You can save it other places as well if you want. You can save it in your custom content manager as well. I'm just going to show you how to save it to the desktop. And you can also save it to your action menu, okay? So every prop has an action menu, and I'm going to show you that right now. Let's close down the prop key editor right now. We don't need that. If I right-click on the collect clip track, I can select Add to Action Menu or Transfer to Action Menu as well, okay? If I select Add to Action Menu, we have the ability to name it. So let's call it Bounce, okay? And press OK. So now what happens is what I can do, I can right-click on my prop right there at frame one here. I can go to Action Menu, and in my Action Menu, we have the option to bounce, okay? And what that did is that got rid of all those keyframes, okay? Because we just basically overwrote everything, okay? So we have this bounce, the monitor's bouncing like this, okay? And what I'm going to do now is we're going to loop it, okay? Select that clip there, rather, and make sure that loop is enabled here. I'm mousing over it right now. Not speed, okay? Speed will change the speed, so loop it, and click and drag on the right end of your clip to loop it, just like this, okay? Okay, there you have a looped bouncing TV screen like that, and everything's looking good. Okay, so you can, loop that as much as you want. You can change the speed and everything like that, all fine and good. Okay, so that's really the custom prop animation. Now, if I want, I can apply that to other props as well. Let's bring in a custom prop. Let's go to, let's find like a cartoon sofa. I'm gonna go to Google here and just type in cartoon sofa, whatever, and go to images here. I'm going to go to more, rather settings and advanced search. They're very important when you're looking for free props to add into your scene. Make sure you go to advanced image search on Google and make sure you select file type PNG. okay, PNG files, which are transparent files. They have transparent backgrounds. Otherwise, you're going to have a white background import when you import it into your scene. Okay, and then, generally I like to choose a larger image size if I can, and just go advanced search. Okay, so here we have a selection of cartoon props, sofas to choose from. Okay, go through all these if you want. I'm just going to choose this potato cartoon thing right here. Let's just go ahead and right click on that and save it. Save image as. We'll just save it as whatever it is. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show that in the folder, and I'm going to click and drag that into my scene. Left click and drag it. Okay, so you can see here there is the image right there. I had already saved it earlier, but here it is right here. So all I need to do is just left click and drag it and open it right here. Left click and drag it into Cartoon Animator. Okay, now you have a few options here. I'm going to show you the different option in just a moment here when we talk about importing in that 3D freeform actor. But we have the option here to import it as a prop, an image layer, or a background. Now, in general, you don't want to worry about background for these types of things. Image layer will basically, think of an image layer as a sticker that's stuck to your camera screen, okay? So if you're like a fighter pilot, if you're like having a first person perspective of a fighter pilot, for example, you want to have all those, green kind of measurements on the side. I'm not even sure what they are. Sound like such a layman here, but you want to have that on your vision, like kind of on the inside of your goggles, for example. But I'm just going to go ahead and import this as a prop, for simplicity's sake. Any questions you can ask me more about it later. But I'm just going to import it as a prop. Oh, it imported as this. Okay. So this is what happens when you don't have an actual, like a transparent PNG. It imports like this. I'm not sure what I think that's the original image problem right there. Yeah, okay, so I think I just selected the wrong one. Let's just right click this one and save it. Hopefully this is, let's just find something else here. This one here, this will do. And how hard can it be to find a sofa? There we go. Save image as. All right. Let's see if this one imports in properly. Oops. There we go. Okay, so let's click and drag that one in as a prop. Oh, give me a sec. All right. This one had been working before. Anyways, so I guess let's find oops, an image here. Apologies for that, guys. Or you know what? That's basically how you import in stuff. I'm not going to show you a custom import right now since I can't seem to be finding the right prop. Let's just go ahead and close this down. And we'll assume that we took this sofa from the conference room, or this chalkboard from the conference room, whiteboard from the conference room into our office here. And we want to apply that same animation to this one, okay? That is how you import in the PNGs, but they weren't being transparent for some reason. Okay, so what I'm going to do is apply that animation to this board as well. So this is useful for stuff if you have, in a practical situation, if you have like reeds or trees kind of flowing in the wind, or a dress or something like that just flowing in the wind. It's really, really useful for that. Right now, we're just having inanimate props just dancing all over the place. Okay, so it's a little bit of a weird situation, but bear with me. Okay, so if we play back, again, we have that dancing screen right there. If we want to apply the same animation to anything else on the screen, we can do so by finding the bounce right here. This is a Crazy Talk Animator prop motion file. Just click and drag that again onto your object right there. And you can see it morphs that mesh as well. So if we wanted to loop it, again, select it, go to motions here, and loop it just like this. Okay, so, okay. And you can have the whole office join in on the dance if you want. Left click and drag it onto anything. Maybe this chair, for example. Okay, so you can have the whole office kind of just dancing together. So, really useful tip for when you're transferring animations from one prop to another. If you want them to have kind of simultaneous animations, that's the best way to do it. I also want to mention here, if you want to save this this prop, this animated prop, what you can do is you can select it right here and go over to props here and into custom. What I would do is I would press the plus button over here. Okay, so say I imported this monitor in like that and press the plus button. That'll save as a prop, and it'll have the action menu saved with it as well. It should see, there we go. Okay, so you can see on the top left it has Annie, okay, which means it's animated. You have the option for animation with it in the action menu, and the RS stands for render style. We're not going to talk about that right now. That's just kind of something, a legacy feature from Crazy Talk Animator 2 and 3. Okay, we'll just call this Screeny, Mr. Screeny, okay? And then if you import Mr. Screeny in, there he is right here, okay? And if we take him to frame 1, we can right click in the action menu, you'll find bounce, okay? There's bounce right there. So now everyone's kind of bouncing along to the beat. Okay, now the last thing I wanted to show you here is I want to show you how to import in the music and sound effects and animation and a lot of stuff. In the second part of this webinar series, we're going to talk about how to bring in custom characters and rig them up with bones and all that stuff for different scenarios. I'll give you a preview of that at the end of this webinar. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. The best way to add music into your scene, it's really simple actually. Just go over here to your track list and go into project, okay? And we don't have to have, with project, there's a few different tracks here. There's 2 sound effect tracks you can add sound effects into, and there's a music track here as well, okay? So if you want to add music, all you have to do is just double click on the music track where you want to add the music. And I'm going to find some music here, right here. And we're going to go to this Ben Sound Hip Jazz. By the way, if you're looking for royalty-free music to use for your projects, Ben Sound is an amazing resource here. A whole bunch of really good stuff. It's available for absolutely for free. I'll just throw this in there to the chat window as well for you guys. There you go. Okay, so Ben Sound royalty free, and you can download all this stuff here. Just make sure you don't use it for like huge commercial projects and stuff. I think there's a free use thing here. Yeah, so don't use it in like all these things, music remixes or for making your own songs or audiobooks or audio podcasts. Just use it for your own projects. But very, very useful resource there. Okay, so we're just going to throw in Ben Sound Hip Jazz here. Okay. Okay, well that just plays, and if you, by the way, if you want to scroll in and out of your timeline or zoom in and out of your timeline, a very useful little tip here, hold the Alt key and scroll your mouse button, scroll your mouse wheel, okay? If you're in the timeline, hold Alt and scroll your mouse wheel to zoom in and out of your timeline like this. A very useful thing that I use all the time personally. So again, Alt and scrolling your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. And you can see we have this Ben Sound Hip Jazz track right here. Now, if I want, I can cut this. Stop it maybe here. Okay, so let's just right click on the clip, and I'm going to select break. Okay, and now it'll be in 2 different clips. So I'm going to select the right clip here and just delete the right clip. So now all we have is this little section here. This little clip. Now, if I want to maybe just fade this out, for example, I can do that as well. A really simple feature. Just double click on the clip itself. And when you double click on the clip itself, it brings you up with the option to set the volume. Okay, so we can turn the volume down, for example, if we want to maybe like, let's go to like 40 or 38, whatever. And you can set the fade in. Okay, so there's a percentage with fade in and fade out. Okay, and what those are is when do you want the fade out to start? Do you want it to start in the last 5% of your track, or of your clip rather, or the last 10% or the last 50%. Generally, as a rule, I choose like 10 or 15%. Okay, I like to have a nice long fade out at 15%. And what's going to happen now is from approximately where my mouse is right now, where my playback head is right here, it'll fade out from here to the end of the clip. Okay, play back now. Okay, so you got a nice clean fade out as opposed to kind of a very rigid and abrupt end to the clip. Okay, and you can do the same thing with a fade in as well. So here, let's bring the volume up a little bit just to make sure you can notice the difference there. Okay, so nice clean fade out. Adding sound effects into your scene, super easy as well. Now, one thing I had in the original project, I had office background noises, so ambient office music. Okay, so music, not sorry, sounds, not music. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just in sound effects 1, I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, go into my sound effects here. And we have busy office ambience. Okay, this is a wave file. Wave file. Okay, so there you go. That ambient office background music, background sounds. Okay, it just adds a little bit of a finishing touch onto your final project. And once I'm done this, I'll show you the main project that I'll be giving you, and I'll kind of deconstruct it a little bit for you, what I did there. And one final thing I'm going to do, I'm going to delete the other bouncers that I don't want here, the chair and everything like this. One thing I want to do here is I'm going to add in some bounce sound effects. So again, same option here. I'm going to just left click, and I have a boing kind of sound effect. Okay, I'm just going to make sure those volumes on the other two are a bit further down so I can really focus on the boing. Okay, and let's take the volume of sound effects 1 down to let's say 40%. Okay, so now we have a boing. Okay, so boing like that. And you can see the boing only comes from here. There. The rest of the clip on the boing is just like nothing, just empty sound. What I'm going to do there is just right-click on that and break it and delete the second part of boing. Now, unfortunately, with the sound clips, you can't loop them. So what you have to do is right-click on the clip and copy it and paste it. Okay, so you press Control-V here, Control-V, here, Control-V, here, Control-V, and here we have a. Okay, so we have that boing, 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 boing for the monitor there. Okay, so hopefully that's kind of clear on how you can import your own sound effects and music. Again, you have 3 tracks to work with, so you can kind of experiment with that on your own time, whatever your project needs, and that's how you can really add some ambience to your scene. It really does a lot in the end to production value, just to add a couple of quick sound effects to your scene. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just really deconstruct that first project first. And if you have any questions, we're going to move to the Q&A session after this. So just going to quick deconstruction, and then we're going to answer some Q&A questions here for you guys. So that now is the time to put your questions into the Q&A panel there as I load up this project, and we'll get to those in just a minute. It's taking a bit longer to load up my project than I would have expected here. There we go. Okay, so let's go out of camera record mode here first of all, and press F3, go into my timeline here. So under sound effects here, I have the busy office ambience on a loop. Okay, sound effects 2. I have nothing until the monitor starts moving. So now we have the. That's funny. I don't remember buying a dancing on a stupid chicken monitor. Man, what was in that? Okay, and then music, we have the hip jazz right here with a nice fade out at 10%. Okay, volume at 25, sound effects 2, everything's at 100 over here, and sound effects 1, everything's at 100 there. Okay, just a quick deconstruction of what I did, and that's about it. So I think what I'll do is I'll move to the Q&A section here, and we'll answer any questions you guys have about the project. And again, if you have any questions when we send you the project, feel free to contact me or ask those in the second Q&A section, and I'll show you, how to work the magic, the stuff that I'm doing in this project. Okay. Okay. Excuse me, I can't really breathe out of my nose here. Fairs asks here, I don't have Photoshop, but I do have GIMP. Will that work with CA4? Yep, definitely will. So if you have GIMP or anything else, Affinity Designer, I've been using Inkscape for a while now, as opposed to Illustrator. I'm kind of trying to wean myself off Adobe a little bit. But any program that supports PSD format, you can use. Okay, so it doesn't really have to be Adobe, but it has to support PSD format if you're going to be editing your stuff outside of Cartoon Animator. Right. So hopefully that answers your question there. Linda Whaley asks, how does Cartoon Animator differ from Crazy Talk 8 for what you can do with facial animation? Well, to be honest, there's not a whole lot of difference, but Cartoon Animator 4 characters will utilize sprite animation. Okay, so generally with Crazy Talk 8, we do have some characters that use sprites, but Cartoon Animator 4, there's a lot more detail. It's a bit more advanced than Crazy Talk 8 at this point. Crazy Talk 8 is used for quite simplistic facial animation. If I loaded up Crazy Talk 8 really quickly, we haven't updated it in a while, but we've since Crazy Talk 8, we have things like we can morph the facial features on Cartoon Animator 4. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. Again, this is more of a question for day 3, but I'll show you really quick an example of this that you cannot achieve in Crazy Talk 8. So if you go to your face key editor here, with your character selected, you have a few more options here. You have the option to morph your facial features like you do in Crazy Talk 8, no problem. There's templates, which you also have. We also have like deform. Okay, so if I took deform and I can deform my character's mouth. Okay, like this. Again, just the same way we did like kind of with the props, we can deform the mouth and just really move it around. And there's also sprite switching as well, which we should have used. And transform is basically just scaling and moving. Templates here, morph if I wanted to morph my mouth. Again, you can do that as well by clicking it and morphing it like that as well. Crazy Talk 8 doesn't have a lot of those features. I'd recommend these days using Cartoon Animator 4 simply because you're not really only limited with the facial animation. Okay, with Cartoon Animator 4, you can have multiple characters. You can have more detailed facial animation. And then I haven't used this stuff in ages. So if you would up here to Face Puppet or Face Key Editor here, you'll notice that Crazy Talk 8 for the Face Key Editor has the muscles, which are kind of similar to the morphs. Okay, so I can move my face like that. But they don't have different facial features that you can modify, just kind of muscles. It works on muscles, okay? So you can see muscle tab up there. It's not morph. Okay, it has the same expression templates you can choose, like happy, for example, blah, blah, blah. And that's about it. So it's very, very simplistic when it comes to facial animation. It's really used for, beginners. Cartoon Animator 4, we're trying to move into more advanced ways of animating. So highly recommended above Crazy Talk 8 if you want to do anything cool with your project there. Okay, Jen asks, what is Alt on a Mac? I believe Alt is Command, the Command key on a Mac. So if you're using a Mac, Command left click will be your panning your camera back and forth. Okay, if that answers your question there. Question from Kwan Yehu. How can I turn a G3 character from side to front at a scene? Well, unfortunately, right now with the G3 characters, we only have the option to flip them from side to side. What we recommend doing I mean, you can swap out a character, a side view character to a front view character. But what I recommend doing is just like flipping your characters back and forth. So the way you flip a character is by using the horizontal flip there. And here we go. Let's flip the chicken, actually. There we go. Chicken. Up here, there's horizontal and vertical flip. So you can click it. You can horizontal flip your character like that, or vertical flip it. And there we have an upside down chicken. All right, pretty simple stuff. But unfortunately, with the G3 characters, as we don't have the option like we did with G2 characters to just give them different angle profiles. So that's something that we have with G2, but not with G3. But the thing that's better with G3, a lot better, is we have the 360 heads. So you have the option here. This is something you can't do with G2 characters. Go to your face key editor here, and under morph, just take your head like this. Okay, you cannot do this with G2 characters. All right, you cannot move it around like that. So all you have to really do is just be a little bit creative with your your camera work and your script and where your characters are looking, their bodies are positioned, and you can easily get away with making it look very, very 3D. Okay, like some animations are just like ridiculously 3D looking, even though they're on G2 characters. Like for example, this cocky looking guy here. There's some social motions, like oh, I don't know. Okay, maybe not that one. Okay, we want to put his layer his arm in front of his body instead of behind his body. I think it's not really made for that character, but yeah, motions like that. Let's go to perform maybe. And gosh, G3, and let's do let's give our Jim a motion here. So this is a side-facing motion, something like this.
Jim, you really should take.
We need to remove his animation first. There's too many animations on these guys. You can't just bring them into a project like that. But you get the point. I mean, if you're creative enough with it, gosh, I'm just wrecking my computer here. If you're creative enough with it, you can do like a lot of fun stuff.
Let's party!
Jim, you really should take.
Okay. There's some other ones I can't remember finding where I found them. G3 360. Yeah, these ones here might be a bit better. So like Philip Anger, for example. Oops. There we go. That should work.
Take a break from animating. You've been at it for hours.
Okay. Yeah, I'm successfully just with too much animation stuff going on in this project, something's conflicting with that. So we'd have to probably start a new project and get all this stuff out of the way. Anyways, I won't focus too much on that, but just so you get the picture there, what you can do and what you can't do. So Tony asks, how do you do a search on items in the content manager? So now that I just totally took the project, totally restarted the project here, you can go ahead and find file right here. That's not for that though. To search for stuff in the content manager, we don't really have the search feature yet on this. We do have it in iClone, but I think this is a wishful feature that we are going to be including. So right now, with the content manager, unfortunately, we don't have the search function available at this time. But yeah, that's unfortunate, but we do have the option to find the files that I was mentioning there. So just click this and you can find files and stuff. All right, that's an Explorer. That's not really relevant though. So unfortunately, we don't have that feature yet, Tony, but we will want to include that in the near future. Since we are really racking up all the content in Cartoon Animator 4, and some people have a lot of content, and it's hard to search through sometimes. Okay, so Robert mentions the bottom inch of the screen is covered up by the chat screen, so I can't see your bottom screen. Okay, maybe you can kind of elaborate a bit on that, Robert, if you're unable to, not sure what you're unable to do. What I'm doing is I'm just sharing my screen. I'm not really sharing the bottom of my screen here, so I'm not really sure if you're missing something there. But yeah, just let me know if there's something that you really need, you think you're missing. Jonathan asks, is it possible to export a character of prop motions as a PNG image sequence or sprite sheet to import into a 2D game engine? Yeah, it definitely is, Jonathan. We actually actually have a tutorial I did on that, gosh, just ages ago now, and used it as a looping run, I think it was. So what you would do is when you go to render, you go to render image, I believe. Haven't done this for ages, but you can render image sequence there, okay? Okay, so this format, you can choose PNG probably is what you want, and image sequence, and then set your frame rate, and your project length will be adjusted right here. Excuse me, on the bottom right of your timeline. You can left click and drag that project length slider to however long you want your image sequence to be. Okay, so it'd be like from here to here. Okay, and if you want to loop it, you know, just for example, play back. Right now, it's just going to play from frame 1 to the last frame. Let's make that a little bit shorter. Okay, it's going to stop at the last frame. If you loop it, if you want to loop it, just press loop here. Okay, this option here, when it's red, that'll loop it. Okay, and it'll loop back and forth. All right, good enough. Yeah, but you can definitely export to a 2D game engine. And you can probably email me after this, and I can send you the link to that. The process is relatively the same as we have done in previous versions of Cartoon Animator, or Crazy Talk Animator in this case. Okay, so Mauricio asks, the props like the windows, can they be transparent so the buildings, as you pan the scene, look like 3D panning? Yeah, you definitely can. So, you know, things like a window, for example, I feel reluctant to go into Google image search again, but let's like search cartoon window, for example. Maybe I'll just try and find something here. I'm not sure what was the problem earlier. But like a window, for example, there should be tons of windows here. And what you can do is here's what I'll do. I'll just show you a quick where there would be a window. There's got to be a window somewhere. No windows in the office. Okay, let's turn this partition painting into a window. What I'm going to do is just take this painting and I'm going to export this into Photoshop. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean here. Let's just scale that up, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Hopefully Adobe doesn't ask me to log in again like it always does here recently. But yeah, I mean, transparent images, fantastic. Transparent images, you can, like a window, you can make certain areas transparent. Let's just do it really quick here. It's gonna take like just a second. I don't need to see that pivot. Yeah, generally when you launch a prop, by the way, it's gonna look like this. You're gonna have these folders here. You just need to find the actual image here. And let's just select quick selection tool here. And maybe select this area here. Delete it. This area, delete that. This area here, delete that. Okay, so then we'll file and save as. I'm going to save this as a PNG. Sorry if this is going a bit fast for you guys. We are recording this webinar, by the way. If I'm going too fast for you, you can review it on your own time as well a little bit later on. Let's just go to our desktop, actually. There we go. Okay, bye-bye, Photoshop. That's enough of you. Okay, so let's take that transparent window that we brought in here, or painting rather, and bring it in as a pro. Not in here. We need to go back to stage mode first. And let's bring it in now. Left click and drag. Again, we're going to import it in as a prop. Okay, select yes. Okay, so those areas that we cut out right now, that you can see. So if you had a window like that, you know, or some mysterious painting, it looks like eyes with a mustache, or maybe a ghost or something, then you can see the transparent effects at work right there. Okay, really quick answer to your question there. Okay, another question from Mauricio. Is there a way to, in Cartoon Animator 4, to create animations and keep them as a motion template? Yeah, I think I just kind of demonstrated that with the props at the end there. So when I did that prop animation, like the little dancing animation, I know it was a super cheesy animation, but it's just to kind of show you the process of how you can save motions on props and apply them to other props. There's much more detailed stuff on that as well. there's a detailed tutorial that talks about props that have multiple different layers on them, and how you can animate the layers separately as well. And I find that somewhere that's in the Learning Center, I believe. Prop saving, animation save and reloading or something like that. It's been so long ago. Okay, so Raymond asks, where can I find the replay? Yeah, just so I forgot to mention here, so you guys are aware, we are recording this. So if I'm going too fast for any of you, just we are sending out with email the replay for this webinar. Okay, so if I go through anything too fast for your comfort, feel free to just check out the recorded video, and you can also email me directly as well if you have any questions. My email is kai@reallusion.com. That's KAI @reallusion.com. And I'd be more than happy to just kind of answer any of your questions on your particular project if you're having any difficulties, because I know how frustrating that can be. There's also the forums as well at forum.reallusion.com. I'm going to post that here as well for you guys. Just so you know, there's tons and tons of people that are on the forums all the time, and they're more than happy to answer a lot of the questions for you. I'm going to put this in the chat window here as well. There you go. Okay, back to the questions. Where can I find the demo project files? I will send those out to you via email. Okay, so the demo project files will be sent out to you via email, so you can kind of deconstruct them on your own time there. Okay, question from Subdiacon. Can I use CTA actions with external tools? Unfortunately, cartoon animator files are proprietary. They can't be used in other software. Simple answer to your question there. It's unfortunate we don't have the option to transfer cartoon animator actions to any other software at this time. That's some kind of an interesting feature that we may want to add in the future, but but for now, that is not in the cards. Linda asks a good question here. How do you know the PNG you imported from Google is free and copyright free? Well, you know, I don't really do much commercial work these days. I'm kind of busy with a few other things, but generally, I mean, you can just go to the website of the image you're using. There's not a lot for free these days. You know, you can find free stuff if you search a lot in the right places. But it's definitely not like the wild west internet of the early days where there's a lot more free stuff. And now it seems everyone kind of wants to be monetizing things. Like this, for example, this cartoon window. This is on Pinterest. Okay, let's see if this one will work. I can show you how to save an image and import it as a PNG file. Desktop. There it is. This one will work. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So this one will work. There you go, as a prop. And there it is, the transparent, well, the background is transparent anyways. Okay, and there's our nice window that we imported in. And you can make those window panes transparent the same way I did before in Photoshop. I won't do that right now, though. I kind of feel like I want to. No, let's just let's skip that. Okay, so hope that answers your question there, Linda. For some reason, I have the strong desire to use Photoshop right now. Denise asks, is Reallusion promoting copyright infringement? No, definitely not. You have to select, research every image you're using. Naturally, you don't want to be using images that are not yours in commercial ventures. Okay, a lot of your own private stuff, go ahead, use whatever you want, as long as you're not making money off of it. I think generally, as a rule in this community, if you're not making tons of money off of it, then, I mean, you can have fun, go wild with a lot of stuff. Some people are more picky than others. Some artists are more protective than others. Yeah, my rule of thumb is if you're just using it for personal use, it's fine. Again, some artists will beg to differ on that, but that's just a general rule of thumb that I follow. And of course, everyone has their own rules, okay? So Jonathan asks a good question. Is there a particle or physics system in Cartoon Animator 4? There is not a physics or particle system right now in Cartoon Animator 4. The only particle system we might have is like flash animations where you can use particle effects with those. But unfortunately, we don't have our own particle effects in Cartoon Animator 4. But that's something that maybe Cartoon Animator 5, you never know. We're always improving as we move along here. Okay, so Mauricio asks, how do we link the animation between props? Well, I kind of just showed that you can save it out. You can also save it to a custom folder in the content manager as well. Okay. Let's get this out of the way here. Oh, goodness sakes. Okay. Never mind. Not sure why Photoshop is continuing to ask me to log in. I'm not sure if anyone else is having that problem, but yeah, I kind of just showed that back to Mauricio's question there. I kind of just showed the animation between props. Again, you can save it to the desktop or you can import it into your content manager library, whichever way you think is the best or more convenient. Okay, so for Ali, we are sending the webinar link to you guys. The video link we're going to send so you can review on your own time. And we're also sending the project files as well. Okay. And I highly encourage you guys to come back for day 2 and day 3, because day 2 is going to be character customization. We're not only going to be doing the standard G3 characters, we're also going to be doing free bone characters and spine characters as well. Just kind of showing you different uses for your custom props or custom character bone structures. Okay, so one thing I wanted to, this is kind of a topic, Ali's question is, are you going to show how to cover multiple backgrounds and record as a movie? That's something we can probably cover at the end of day 3, using multiple backgrounds. If you may recall, I used a transition between the end of scene 1 and the beginning of scene 2. Now, those transitions are in a special content pack, which I'll show you. I mean, I can show you right now if you guys really want to see the content pack. Someone mentioned I've been going to the content store too much, so I'm trying to sell stuff too much. So I don't want to kind of avoid the content store. But there's a transition stuff that I'll probably show in either day 2 or day 3. That we have a content pack for that has some really cool Flash animated transitions that you use to transfer between scene 1 and scene 2 or scene 3 or whatnot. But I can show that as well, definitely in day 3. If you want to, if you want me to show you how to render it and combine it into one scene as a movie, I'm more than happy to do that. Okay, so Alana asked the same question as earlier. What's the equivalent of Control and Alt when you're a Mac user? I just know Alt is Command, and that's generally what you use for all the Mac stuff. Praveen mentions we're getting a recording of this session. Yet we are sending out a recording for this session, so just so you guys are aware of that. Okay, so Quan asks, is there any interchange between Crazy Talk 8 and Cartoon Animator 4? Can CT8 receive a file from CA4? Crazy Talk 8 cannot receive files from Cartoon Animator 4 right now because Crazy Talk 8 is an older program. And Cartoon Animator 4 uses new data in the animation files, okay? Such as all the tools I mentioned to you earlier, like deform and stuff like that. But you can save scripts in Crazy Talk 8, and you can import those onto your characters in Cartoon Animator 4. Just so you're aware, if you have a particular facial animation that you're proud of that you did in Crazy Talk 8, you can save that as a script. Then you can import it into Cartoon Animator 4. So like in Cartoon Animator 4, you have the option to, when you add talking to your character, you have the option for text-to-speech, adding in a WAV file. You also have the option for a Crazy Talk script, okay? Hope that answers your question there. Glenn Gray asks, where did you get your Office sound file? I got mine off of Envato, okay, Envato Elements. I have a kind of a little account there. Elements, in case you guys are wondering. What I've done is I just paid for a year of like free access to all their stuff mainly. I'll throw this in the chat window as well. Okay. Oh, someone mentioned in the chat window, Alt on Mac is Option, not Command. Yeah, I get mixed up. I haven't used the Mac for ages, so it's yeah, sorry about that, guys. Option and not Command for the Alt on the Mac. I'm kind of misinforming everyone here with my lack of Mac knowledge. I do have an iPhone. I'm not a total Mac hater, but I do not know the difference. I've always thought it was Command, but I think Control must be Command. It's one or the other, anyways. Envato is where I get all my sound effects, a lot of my sound effects. If you're really sneaky, there's a way you can, record sound effects off YouTube. Again, I'm just putting this out there. But yeah, that's really up to you. You can record any audio that basically streams into your computer if you're smart about it. But I'm not going to show you how to do that. That would be libelous. Jonathan asks, can you add more audio tracks? Unfortunately, at this time, there's only the 3 audio tracks that you can add to your project in Cartoon Animator 4. I requested for more in the past, and I think, this shouldn't be a huge issue to add more in the future, but hopefully that's something that's coming up. In iClone, what you can do in iClone is you can add sound. There's an sound effects track for each individual prop. So, for example, this one right here, there would be a sound track for each individual prop in iClone, which is really useful. So we can possibly integrate that into the future. But for now, unfortunately, you're stuck with the 2 audio tracks, 2 sound effects tracks, and the 1 music track. Okay, so Alana asks, can you show us where the prop editor is located once again? So prop editor, prop key editor maybe is down here. Okay, so this is where you do the morphing or the deforming. If I wanted to change this window into one that's like not so morphed up and everything like that, I can do this. Okay, so again, you got to get some details in there and mess around with these things a little bit, and generally you should be able to get different perspectives. Okay, and I wanted to go into more detail on that, but I don't think we have time for that. I wanted to focus more on your guys' questions here. So Alana, hopefully that answers your question there, where the prop editor is located. The composer for the props is up here. Okay, this is where you compose your props. Once you have it selected right here, you'll see the composer, and that's where you can edit it. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so Judy asks, can you show us, again, we're going to click to adjust the volume of the music or sound effects. Yeah, certainly. Okay, so in project, left click here on the timeline, select project, and open the music track, and then just double click on the music track to add a clip. Let's add this traffic jam. If you want to adjust the volume of that, just double click on the clip again. Okay, so just double left click on everything. Not sure why it's not, there we go. There you go, and you can set the volume here, and the fade in and fade out. Unfortunately, there's no keyframes available for the sound volume at this point, but it's very, very simplistic, very primitive kind of feature right now in Cartoon Animator 4. But again, all that stuff can be done in post-editing with like Premiere or whatever sound editing software you're using. Okay. Okay, so yeah, Sonia mentions here, possibly it's difficult for some of you to kind of follow the mouse. So apologies for that if I'm moving the mouse around too fast. But again, you can always watch the video and pause it, and even watch in slow motion if you really want. But yeah, we'll try and get that a little bit slower in the future, especially for beginner courses here. Okay, so another question from Alana. Do the front-facing or side-facing characters from the G3 sets no longer matter with the introduction of G3 characters in Cartoon Animator? I mean, this is kind of a tricky question. To each their own. I think that some people prefer the smooth 360 heads. Some people prefer that abrupt kind of movement from one angle to the next. So that was prevalent in G2 characters. Personally, I love the G3 characters. I love the 360 heads. Man, it looks so much better than it used to. And there's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, I highly recommend checking out the tutorials that I did on the G3 360 heads. Really makes things look a lot better, in my opinion. And I think it kind of makes the other ones obsolete. But again, I have had projects in the past, working for contractors as a contractor for people, and they've said like, oh, we suddenly want to change this guy facing this camera to facing away from the camera. And if you're using a G3 character, you're like, oh crap. Well, now I have to draw a whole new character and have a rear profile for this character. Whereas if you're using a G2 character, you're like, well, okay, that takes about 2 seconds to rotate the character to a different angle. Okay. Craig says, thanks. Hey, thanks, Craig. Thanks for coming by and listening to me blabber on about Cartoon Animator 4. Nathaniel mentions here, how did you put the voice track in? Okay, this will be mostly on day 3, but if you want to know how to put a voice track on your character, let's just bring in Jim Plainclothes as an example here. I'll show you how to do this really quickly. Man, I'm answering the questions. You guys keep on popping up the questions as fast as I can answer them. While I wait for that guy to import in, let's just look at the next one here. Is there a way to import 3D animations? Okay, so there's a question from, well, let's go to Nathaniel's question first here, since our character popped up here. Let's put this in front of him. So it looks like he's looking through the window. All right, anyways, there he is. To add facial animation to your character, all you got to do is click on Create Script over here on the left, okay? And you have the option to record your own voice, add text to speech, a WAV file, or cartoon scripts. This is the one I was mentioning earlier that comes from Crazy Talk, okay? Those are the options for adding voices to your character, okay? So question from an anonymous attendee here about importing 3D animations into Cartoon Animator 4. Now, you can import 3D animations into Cartoon Animator 4, but you cannot import them onto G3 characters. Okay, you can only import them onto G2 characters. So because G2 characters were built with the intention of having all the animations from iClone being compatible with those characters. And it works really well, actually. You can have a G2 character, you can apply an iClone animation, a 3D iClone animation to your G2 character, and it'll like move around, it'll rotate 360 degrees, really cool stuff. But right now we're kind of working on other aspects of Cartoon Animator 4, like the 360 heads. But it's likely that we may have bigger improvements in the future as well. Yeah, but they can't be, they can be imported into Cartoon Animator 4, but only to G2 characters, okay? So hopefully that answers your question there. So Arnold asks a good question here. Is the deform tool limited to 9 control points, or can it have a higher resolution? That really depends on the resolution of the prop, actually. Right now, generally as a default, it'll be 3x3. Just to clear that up. Whoops, what did I do here? There we go. Yeah, so this window that I brought in, for example, this transparent window here, if I want to deform this, right here we have the option for yeah, basically no option right here. This is just going to be your standard right here, but there is options for various other objects, default 2x2 and 3x3. But again, it all depends on the resolution. But I think 3x3 is the maximum. So unfortunately, that's. But larger props have definitely more control points. All right. So Joe asks, can we watch the webinar over again? How can we do that? Yeah, you can definitely watch it over again. We're going to send you guys a video of this webinar recorded. And of course, in day 2 or day 3, you can ask me to review something, and I'll be more than happy to review it with you at that time. Excuse me. Okay, so Carlton asks, can you import Cartoon Animator or Crazy Talk 8 faces into Cartoon Animator? Now, that's a good question. Crazy Talk 8 has a different format of heads. You can import those heads into iClone, but right now they're not able to be imported into Cartoon Animator 4. Okay, it's just a slightly different format, slight incompatibility, but that's not available at this time. Now, let me see here. I believe that some certain characters you can save as a CT head in Crazy Talk 8. But I'd have to kind of go back into that. Man, it's been so long since I used Crazy Talk 8. Let me move on to the next question while I test that theory. Whoops. What am I doing here? I need to find my Q&A. There we go. Let's try a quick export from Crazy Talk 8 here. It's been a while since we released Crazy Talk 8 here. No, I think saving out, you don't have that option. We have the option to send head to character creator or export RL head, but the RL head is not compatible with Cartoon Animator 4, to my knowledge. So if I did this, it doesn't really matter, this stuff. I'll just save it to the desktop, for example. Default, sure, okay. If we try to import this onto our character, I don't think it'll work. I'm like pretty sure it won't work because the head format is different. If we take this character into composer mode here. Sorry if I'm just clicking all over the place, but I'm just gonna figure this out real quick because I'm 99.9% sure, but there's always surprises, you know, especially for software you haven't used for over a year. Focusing mostly on Cartoon Animator 4 and Crazy Talk, or and iClone recently. So create head, you can create a head up here, okay, but if we take our default head in here, try to import it in, no. Okay, so that kind of answers the question right there. We're not going to be able to do so with our character. Okay, thankfully we got that out of the way. Okay. So a few people mentioned command is a control on the Mac. Okay, so I want to reinforce that. I feel like such a tool earlier telling you command was alt. Okay, command is control on the Mac. Okay, so apologies to everyone here, far and wide, about my ignorance to the Mac functions there. What's the difference between a question here from Toshitaro? What's the difference between a G2 360 and a G3 360? Well, I kind of mentioned that earlier, showing the head difference. A G2 character, in case you're not aware, I'll just quickly show you guys the feature of a G2 character that is the only feature that's superior to a G3 character. And again, superior here is a relative term. If I bring in on my content manager a character, G2 character, let's go G2 plus character. Sol. There it is. Okay, so one cool thing that Sol can do that Jim over here can't do is if I use my bracket keys. Okay, so the bracket keys on my keyboard, I can do stuff like this. Wazam. Okay, I can move him to different angles, just like this. Okay, and those are using the bracket keys on my keyboard. Okay, so really quick hotkey for you guys. Now, like I mentioned before, if you have sometimes you have certain clients that are like, hey, you know, can you make it look, make him go the opposite direction instead of forward or something like that? Then it's like, yeah, sure, no worries. You just basically do that and run the same animation, and it works just fine. So that's where G2 characters are really cool. Unfortunately, they didn't have much for bone structure and all that stuff, but yeah, that's one way you can do that. You can also use the 3D motion key editor up here as well for G2 characters. Right here, and this is you know, you can have fun with that, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. But yeah, it's G2 characters, how they are better than G3 characters in the only way, really. Okay, so Hopefully that answers your question there, Toshitaro. Any more questions, feel free just to email me, please. My email is in the chat window as well, kai@reallusion.com. Okay, so Ahad asks, does iPhone Face Live work with Crazy Talk Animator? Yes, it does. Well, we already have tutorials for this. Ahad, we have a few tutorials, and it's called the 2D Motion Live Studio, I believe. Let me just find it here really quickly. Because this is really the coolest feature, and we're going to be talking about this in day 3. I'm going to be using my own face, so you'll be able to see my ugly mug animating a character. Let's just go here to our projects, 2D media, and here you go, Motion Live 2D. Okay, and this is all the information you'll need on that. I'll throw this in the chat window there. Whoops. There we go. Okay, and that's, yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that since we have a couple other questions to get to here. But that's where you can research on your own time anything Motion Live 2D, because we're going to talk about that on day 3. Okay. Okay, Charles asks, I need advice on placing the background and viewing in 3D so that your objects don't move when you switch between the windows. Placing the background. I'm not sure what you're looking to do there, Charles. I can't really, you can elaborate a bit on that question there. Can't really figure out what to show you there. And I'm just kind of, I don't want to kind of just click around and try and figure it out. So maybe if you could elaborate on that question for me, I'd be happy to answer it a little bit later on there. Peter asks, can I redress the new 3D characters I've bought with period costumes? Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, we have tons of tutorials on editing your G3 characters, and I highly recommend checking those out. Editing the clothing of your G3 characters, custom clothing, and all that stuff. Again, the Learning Center, guys, in case you're not aware of where the Learning Center is, I will throw in a link for that. Just go to your Crazy Cartoon Animator main page, and under Learn, you will find tutorials. You'll also find our webinars here and online manual. Okay, so tutorials, I'm going to throw that in the chat window. They're all categorized down here, and I'll throw that in the chat window there as well for you. Oops, to-doodle. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to show character customization right now since that's for next Monday. Okay, some research says some motions don't work with some actors. Can it be fixed? No, not right now. Sorry, just a flat out want to be direct there. There's some motions you cannot apply to certain characters. So if I try to apply a G2 motion, for example, under motion, under G2, editable 3D, like this idle, for example. Nope, I can't apply it to Buddy over here, but I can apply it to Buddy over here, and that was behind my window there. There you go. We're looping back and forth, but you can see here we can have it this angle, and the thing covers him, or back like this. Gosh, get that stupid thing out of the way here. It's like a big mustache monster that keeps him going in front of the screen here. There you go. All right, so there you can see it from that angle, and then directly facing the other direction there. Okay, so that's the cool thing about those 3D motions and the G2 characters. But again, they are barrel of monkeys to put together to create those characters. It takes a lot more work than your standard G3 character. And we found a lot of people didn't have the patience for it. So we kind of provided the options of G3 characters as well. What I mean by that is that G2 characters are very difficult to customize, create custom characters, much more so than G3 characters. Craig asks, do some characters have 3 angles, front, side, and back angles? Yes, some characters do. You'll be able to find many of those characters in G3 360, G3 360 Human. So for example, this is embedded content that comes with Cartoon Animator 4. Martha F is front facing. Martha S is side facing at about 45 degrees. Martha S2 is side facing at 90 degrees. Okay. That's just the simplest way to put it. Some characters do. And in the content store, some of the characters do as well. It really depends on how much detail has been put into the character. All right. Gosh, Michael asks here, I have Cartoon Animator 3 pipeline and now CTA 4 pipeline. Is there any reason I should keep CTA 3 on my hard drive? Is there any advantages to keeping the old version for things perhaps the new version can't do? I would have to say no on that. I have personally not used Crazy Talk Animator 3 since Cartoon Animator 4 came out. I mean, if you want to add it back on, you always have the option. Go into your Reillusion account and you can reinstall it. The installer files are always still available on your Reillusion account in Chrome. You can download that whenever you want, but hey, save up some space on your free up some space on your hard drive is what I would recommend. Cartoon Animator 4 can do anything that Crazy Talk Animator 3 can do. Okay, so Aderson asks, do custom libraries necessarily have to be contained in Directory C? This is a really good question because personally, I use mostly laptops for all my demos because I just like to bring them around. I like to work out of the house, out of the office. And a lot of issues with laptops is they'll have like a 128 gigabyte solid state drive for their main hard drive, and anybody knows that 128 gigabytes is like nothing these days. You can't have more than a few programs on a 128 gigabyte hard drive, the size that programs are these days. So what I do is I just save everything to my D drive, is what I call it. And when you install your program, there's an option to set that to a different folder. So to answer Addison's questions, you do not need to save your custom libraries to the C directory. You don't even need to save iClone or Cartoon Animator to the C directory. And I recommend not doing it if you have one of those small solid state drives. Okay, Robert asks, I had bought Draw Plus through Reillusion and noticed there's no release of white papers for Draw Plus. Is it no longer supported? No, it should be. Draw Plus should be available. Let me just, I know I personally have it, but I'll show you probably where you can get it. Developer.reillusion.com is for our developers. If you want to, create your own resources and put them on or publish your own assets or characters to the content store, I should be able to find it down here. White paper. And there's G3. Okay. G2 should be here. G2 white papers. If it's not, just email me. Yeah, it should be on here. There should be one for Draw Plus as well. Okay, but if not, just feel free to ask me. But I'm going to go ahead and throw this CTA resources for the developers. If you guys want to make your own characters and sell them, I'll throw this in the chat window as well. Okay. Alrighty, let's get to the next questionerino here. Yeah, so Robert, just email me if you can't find it on that. So I don't want to kind of just browse through it on everyone else's time here. Anonymous Attendee says, can I import an image sequence into Cartoon Animator? The image sequence, I don't believe there's support for import right now. I have not done that, and I have not seen anyone do it. And I don't believe it's possible. So apologies for that. I don't think image sequences are able to be imported into Cartoon Animator. You can import videos, but not image sequences at this time. Okay, so Chaya Paul asks, how do I export motions from the action menu? Well, exporting motions from the action menu, if we select the action menu here, you can see this one this is a default character, by the way, so it has tons of embedded stuff in the action menu. But you can't really export directly from the action menu. What you can do is you can edit your action menu by going to the top in action menu editor and just add or delete them and stuff like that, like shake leg. You can go down or up, but it's not gonna you're not gonna be able to export them directly from the action menu. Since what I showed you is just saving it as an external file is what you do. And once you have it as an external file in any of your libraries, then you can apply it to any character that you want. So yeah, unfortunately, you can't transfer directly from the action menu. I wish you could do that. Susanna asks, can I use my final project for Instagram? Yeah, you definitely can. We encourage people to use Crazy Talk Animator, Cartoon Animator, iClone, any of our software. We encourage you guys to use it freely. If you use it for any cool big projects, please let us know. We can always use it as a showcase. And we can also help to support you as well by getting more exposure for your videos amongst our community. Mauricio asks, can you put a pre-animated face to anything like a letter, a chair, or anything into animate? Freeborn actor? Yes. We're going to cover this in the next webinar on Monday, Mauricio. So I'm going to show you how to make the Adobe After Effects character, which we saw kind of sauntering along in front of the camera in the project one there. Okay. Just simple there. Another question, can I import an image sequence into Cartoon Animator 4? Unfortunately, not at this time. I guess this is a wishful feature for a lot of people. Okay, so Robert mentioned here the chat window at the bottom of your screen covers up your timeline and other stuff at the bottom of your screen. You can actually click and drag and move that chat window. Robert, I think you're referring to the Zoom panel there. What you can do is you can actually just click and drag that to anywhere on the screen. I don't think it should be covering mine. It seems fine on my end, but okay. So Tony here mentions you can have sound attached to your background. Okay, yeah. So forgot to mention that, and in addition to the 2 effects tracks and the music track, but you can't control the volume on the sound background soundtrack. Yeah, this is kind of some kind of obscure feature that Tony just mentioned to us here. And I wanted to kind of bring this to the attention of everyone else here as well. The backgrounds, if I go to scene, I go like general background here, and I bring it in. There's something that if you select the this one here, I don't believe you have the option to, can't find this anyways. Adding a sound to a background. Oh yeah, I guess you can just like bring in a default sound. Like let's hear. Let me just kind of work my way through this badass sound here. I'm not sure if that is actually an option. Let's try this. There's a background. Okay, this must be it. Background. Yeah. What am I doing here? Get this out of the way. Let me see here. This would be big if true. Sorry guys, clicking around there. All right, I can't really figure out how to do that. So maybe Tony, you can kind of put it in the chat window or something. Adding sound attached to the background. I haven't done that before, so it seems interesting that you're able to do that. I'm not sure why we even have that feature. All right, sorry about that, guys. I'm clicking around there a bit. Another question from Risha. Do you recommend making clips and editing them in a video editor to make more than 2 sound effects and 1 for music? Yes, definitely. I mean, a big drawback of Cartoon Animator is, the limitation on the sound effects tracks and the 1 for music. Just throw that into like Adobe Premiere or even like Camtasia or something free. And you have a lot more options than you do with Cartoon Animator. Cartoon Animator is not originally intended to, be a video editing or sound editing program. So we're kind of lacking on those features there. Sue asks, hey, there's no dumb questions here, guys. If does Cartoon Animator 4 replace Crazy Talk Animator 3? Yeah, I just kind of mentioned that earlier. Basically, there's no reason to have Crazy Talk Animator 3 when you have Cartoon Animator 4. Just keep it installed, or keep it in your Relusion account. You can always install it later on, and it always has the serial number saved there as well. All right, thanks, Judy, for enjoying the the webinar, and yeah, good luck to anyone who is intending to enter into the contest. I highly recommend you guys check it out. There's some good prizes. I mean, there's like a couple $1,000, like a PS4 and stuff last year. Yeah, another just to reinforce for Toshitaro, to rotate a G2 character's body, use the bracket keys, and those are the two keys right beside the P key on your keyboard there. The two bracket keys on the right side of P and right above Enter. Okay. You can't rotate the G2 characters. Oh, okay. So Tony kind of elaborated on how his background was imported in. He imported an MP4 movie file with sound. Okay, so it plays the music from the MP4 movie file, but just doesn't have, you can't control the volume. And I'm pretty sure you can probably do that with importing as a prop too. I'm not even sure. I don't even know if I have let's try it, for example. So if you guys want another extra track, let's see if this works out here. Import this as oh man, there's too many windows popping up. What if we import it as a prop? Okay, wrong codec. You can experiment with that, I guess, on your own time. So try and just importing it as a background, I guess, would work, according to Tony there. So if you import your video file in as a background, maybe even as a prop, it should work. Okay. David here asks, will there be a PDF for version 4? I have version 3 and it helps. A PDF, I think maybe you're looking at the help files, maybe, David. Help files can always be found under help, user manual. I'm not sure if you're looking at the wiki or anything like that, but yeah, this is generally where you'll find all the stuff you need for the help files for Cartoon Animator 4. If that's not it, just let me know. Okay. Anonymous attendee asks, can I create my own G2 characters so I can use those as 3D animations? Yes, you can. There is tutorials on how to create those G2 characters, but they're not easy. It takes a bit of time. I think I'd say around half an hour per character to assemble, from what I can recall. But yeah, if you have that time, yeah, for sure. G2 characters are fantastic. You got to use Flash, a little bit of an outdated technology. But again, that was the bee's knees when we were launching Crazy Talk Animator 2 with the G2 characters. Pavel asks a question, can you make the body invisible and only have heads? Yeah, you can do that. Definitely, you can delete the body off the character, and I'll show you how to do that in the next webinar here on Monday with the character customization. Just remind me, and I'll show you how to do that, because that's part of character customization. Daniel asks, are there any new developments on hand control and animation triggers during live use, or when it might be released in CTA 4? Oh, so Daniel, you're asking about the motion capture for hands. Well, no, to be honest, and that's really difficult to integrate into a 2D software like Crazy Talk. Since our hands are working on a sprite-based system right now, the hands of all the characters in Cartoon Animator 4 do not have their individual bones. So therefore, we literally could not translate that data, the mocap data, onto our sprite and have it move in the correct way. So unfortunately, not at this time. I don't see that as something in the very near future, although I have heard whispers of that amongst the development team, but I don't want to comment on when, if or when that feature would be available. Robert asks, will you combine the feature of G2 turning around to G3 characters in the future? Oh, I can't really answer that one either, unfortunately, Robert. That's kind of speculation at this point. Again, I'm not really privy to the inner workings of the development team on a very frequent basis. They just kind of send the marketing team and us guys that, hey, we have this now. And suddenly we'll be like, oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't know anyone was working on that. But generally, we have an idea, but not specifically enough to answer any questions like that. And timelines are always all over the place too. So, so Charles asks how to place the background so the grid is your floor. Well, just once you bring in the background, if you import something as a background, it's going to be in place. You can't modify it. So I imported this as a background, right? This is a background right here, like forest. You can only have one background. And no matter how you move your grid by holding Alt and left click, no matter how you move the grid, the background is going to stay stationary there, okay? I'll just see where that's the difference between a prop and a background when you import them in. Okay, questions. Got a few more questions to go, and then we're out of here. Okay. Great. Okay. Okay, so Robertson mentions here, I went from not being paid to being paid on YouTube using Crazy Talk 8 with a song called Moscow Mitch. Okay, pretty cool. Yeah, and there's lots of people monetizing their Crazy Talk and cartoon animator videos on YouTube. We have one guy that does soccer videos. He makes like I don't want to say millions, but he has millions of views within a few days of all his soccer parody videos that he does. I'm not too up to date on that stuff, but oh, okay. So Robert mentions, can I get the offline manual PDF since you're not always on the internet? Ooh, that's a tough question. Maybe email me about that, and I can probably find something for you there, Robert. But I don't want to click around right now and try and figure it out myself. So I'm not really familiar with the PDF at this time. Is there something else I can do? Yeah, unfortunately, as a glasses wearer myself, you do have limited options. I'm able to wear contact lenses. I know a lot of people are not, but I just always wear contact lenses whenever I'm doing facial motion capture. Since, like you mentioned, it's quite easy for facial motion capture technology to get confused when you're wearing glasses, or even if you have like a mustache. If you have a handlebar mustache or something, it'll be pretty wacky when you're trying to do some motion capture. Not that I've ever had a handlebar mustache, but yeah, I have had a bit of a beard growing before, and it has confused the sensors. All right. But yeah, I guess the only option for that, Joe, would be contact lenses, unfortunately, or else very transparent glasses. All right. Okay, so I think this breaks the record for our longest Q&A session over about an hour over the limit there. So yeah, I guess, this is a good level of excitement and a good level of engagement in this webinar. And I'm looking forward to having you guys back for part 2. Like I said, we're going to cover the character customization in the first part. Just 3 separate characters. We're going to bring in 2 freebone actors and 1 character we're going to customize really easily, really simply. And then probably the last, I'd say 40% of day 2, we're going to get into animation, and mostly body animation, because the animation is, well, it is called Cartoon Animator. Animation is something that you can spend a lot of time on, particularly with character interactions and camera animation and all that stuff. All right. So thanks so much, everyone, for attending today. Really appreciate having you all along. And again, fill out the survey for anything you want to add, anything you want to hear about in the near future. for webinars. It doesn't have to be Cartoon Animator. It can be other Relusion software as well. But yeah, I think that's about it. Make sure you register for the contest. Make sure you check out our tutorials and the weekly special that I put in the chat window for you guys as well. All right, so everyone, hopefully have a good weekend. Enjoy the last few days of summer here, and I'll be back on Monday to talk about character customization and a little bit of animation as well. All right, so I'll talk to you guys later.